Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
I am Brittany Pacheco.
I'm Franklin Star-Lord.
God.
And I'm Andrew, wannabe Star-Lord, their super fan and friend from the north.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. Today we are here to discuss Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Yes, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the 32nd film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the second movie in Phase 5. It's also the third installment in the Guardians of the Galaxy film trilogy, but is it the final Guardians movie? We'll talk about that later. But before we get there, let's talk about it. Release date, May 5th, 2023. A runtime, 2 hours, 29 minutes. A box office, the opening weekend was 282 million worldwide, and right now it's at 318 million as of this morning. Directed by James Gunn. Cast includes, of course, Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Karen Gillan, Palm Klementieff, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Sean Gunn, Chukwudi Iwuji, Will Poulter, Elizabeth Debicki, Maria Bakalova, and Sylvester Stallone. I want to get everybody's overall thoughts of Volume 3. Let's start with Drew. Drew, what'd you think? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
It was my second favorite of everything. Almost my third. You and I messaged after I saw it on Friday. I really liked Guardians 1 and Guardians' role in Infinity War. They definitely were a heart and soul of the first of the Infinity Saga. So that was good. We all, I think, agree 2 was, we're not sure what 2 was, but I enjoyed it. But it, like I said, it's either 2 or 3, depending upon where you rank the Guardians' participation in the Infinity War saga.
So you're not talking about just Guardians movies. You're talking about the Guardians and all the other.
In general, correct.
Okay.
Right. I'm of just the Guardians. It's of the 3. It's my second of the 3 favorites. So.
Okay. Frank, overall thoughts of the movie?
I love the movie, man. It's I always get confused on the phases, which phase we're in. Is this the same phase as Spider-Man?
No, we're in Phase 5 now. Phase 1 started with Quantum Mania, and so this is the second film of Phase 5.
Oh, it's easily my favorite movie out of the thing. Well,
the phases are the only 2 movies. So
yeah. But if we combine the last Phase 4, then it's my second after Spider-Man. It'll go Spider-Man, this movie, and then Shang-Chi. But I thought it was great, man. I love the synergy between the actors. The one line is always epic to me. Zoe Saldana has never really been a favorite of mine, but I love her character. And coming into this movie, even though it's a different timeline, Gamora, I still love the synergy she had with the Guardians. The writing is great. It's a shame that it might be its last, depending on what Mr. DC does now. But it was great, man. I loved it. I'm gonna go see it again this weekend too.
Brittany, what about you? What are your thoughts on the movie? You're muted.
Good point. Yes, I was muted. Hello.
Okay.
Like I've never done this before. Yeah. Quick shout out to Christian of McDorks who's here in the chat. Hola. Thank you for being here. I know you have some thoughts, Christian. I can't wait to hear what you have to say during this review pod. Also, it's not been a secret, y'all, that I've not been the biggest Guardians fan. I don't know why I said fans. However, I think this movie might have converted me to become, albeit a very minor fan of Guardians. But this movie made me feel some type of way. Okay. Like I was not expecting it to be the storyline that it was, just because I don't particularly care for the Guardians. However, the ending I was very surprised about. I mean, there were a lot of surprising moments in general, a lot of very sad moments, a lot of great moments, funny moments, of course. But this movie finally kind of made me into a little bit of a believer of Guardians, with the exception of Guardians Volume 2. You're never going to get me on the same page with that one ever. But yeah, this movie this movie made me feel some type of way. So I was surprised. I was genuinely very surprised.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I really enjoyed the movie, and I think that we're probably surprised about the same thing. Let's just talk about it. I was very surprised by the lack of character death. Last week, Brittany, you and I, we talked about No, it's not like I want the characters to die, right? But it seemed like we were getting set up to lose some of these characters, and some of them are getting written off, right? Dave Bautista, he's out, even though Drax obviously lives. Spoilers. Zoe Saldana doesn't want to play Gamora anymore. Gamora is written off in her own way, so she stays around. But I was surprised that none of the characters died, and that was, again, didn't want the characters really to die, but like it would have made sense if you would have killed off somebody. And we got the pump fake with Star-Lord, which I didn't think he was going to die, so that was actually well executed. But that was probably my biggest takeaway. Is I thought it was going to be more. There was going to be more finality to this final James Gunn movie, and I mean, yeah, some of the characters were written off, but there's definitely a future for a lot of the characters in the Guardians. Drew, what do you think about that?
Just if I could, I'd message you a bit. James Gunn is amazing, and he, I think, read a lot of the social media stuff, and boy, did he toy that she called it pump fakes. I thought the first one, I thought Drax was going to bite it, because I know Dave Bautista was on his way out of the MCU and all that, and I thought this is how they're going to do it. And I'm like, wow, yep, I agree with McDarts there. I was like, that was surprising. And then, the other one, the guy I'm sure we'll get to as we progress through the movie, Peter Quill was another one. Mm-hmm. Trying to remember, and Rocket too. I thought there was that borderline, but you're like, Rocket's coming back. You could see that happening, but I can't agree. I thought for sure Drax was going to bite it, and I kind of thought Quill had it there too. And that was, boy, James Gunn, sure, like I messaged with you, he pulled at our heartstrings and brought us back. I was like, well, sometimes you want some finality, but then as we talk about it more, we'll understand why. So,
yeah, I mean, I do think Drax was written off because he was kind of given the, he's not a destroyer anymore. He's going to be a daddy kind of deal. Almost like he was given the Brian from Fast and Furious role. Now Brian is looking after the kids while the rest of the crew is saving the world in the most dangerous scenarios possible.
Justin, too soon.
No, I don't. No, I'm not. You know what I mean? Like he was written off to, like, we're not seeing Drax again. Or if we do see Drax again, it'll be somebody else playing Drax. It won't be Dave Bautista. Same thing for Gamora. I mean, Gamora, we lost to Gamora in Endgame or in Infinity War. So, I didn't expect her necessarily to die, but I don't know. I thought it was interesting the way the characters were left off. Frank, what are your thoughts on
that? I felt like they left off those characters open because I feel like even though they're Saints last movie, I think they want to leave a possibility of leaving characters open in case they want to come back and do a fourth movie with new characters. And you kind of saw that in the end with some of the new members of the Guardians. So, and I know we'll talk about this later on in the show, but I don't think it's the last movie. I think we will see another Guardians movie, just with new characters, kind of like you see with the Avengers. Now, whether or not James Gunn comes back, that's probably not going to be a thing.
No,
but I can see somebody else. Yeah, I can see somebody else coming to pick up, especially if it makes a lot of money. It's one thing about Marvel, man, and like movies like this, you can say all you want, money talks. And if this movie does great in the box office, I wouldn't be surprised if they pick it back up and like bring another imagination of it. So,
yeah, I mean, it's James Gunn's final movie with Marvel for at least 10 years. Given what he signed up with DC, and for all intents and purposes, probably his last Marvel movie. Now, there might be a Marvel DC crossover in the future where he's involved, but I don't think we're going to see him doing his own Marvel thing unless he just spectacularly fails at DC and is fired and he comes back to Marvel, which, that's obviously very possible. Brittany, what do you think about all this?
I don't know. It happened to D&D, Benioff and Weiss, before they launched their Star Wars project. They got fired from it. So, you just don't know.
But Star Wars fires everybody before they make the movie.
Pretty much.
They were going to have Damon Lindelof do a movie, and they've already gotten rid of him. And Patty Jenkins was going to make a movie, and then they got rid of her. And it's like, they don't make good movies anyway, but they get rid of people before they can even make bad movies. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
So with the ending, that was just so surprising because yes, it kind of builds and makes you believe that one or more of these characters is going to be killed off to some way. this is where I do have a problem with the movie just because of continuity purposes. And y'all should kind of know this by now that I'm big on continuity. If it doesn't fit, like I'm going to talk on it, obviously, or speak on it. When we see that Star-Lord is out in space and it looks like he's about to be frozen over, you know, his face puffs up, swells up, and he's kind of getting that same look that Yondu got in Volume 2, right? Yondu went pretty quick, right? Why did that not apply to Peter Quill? Obviously, we know the reason, because he's the main character. They didn't want to kill off the main character. Even when the ships are being blasted by the villains, people, robots, things, whatever they were, right? They're breaking the glass into the ships, and then they're not being sucked out into space. Like, no one's dying while they're exposed to zero gravity. Like I said, continuity, that bothers me. It's like they can kill off some people that way, but they can't kill off like the main characters. That bothers me the most. However, it was just the fact that everyone kind of got a happy ending, which is very unusual when it comes to a lot of superhero movies, let alone Marvel, because you just don't really see that. And we see them parting ways. They're kind of doing their own thing, with Mantis wanting to go off to find out who she is. Drax is staying behind with Nebula, with the understanding of Nebula needs Drax to help, like you said, be a daddy to like all these kids. And Peter's gone back to Earth to be with his grandfather. Sure, cool, we'll go with that. Everyone gets a happy ending. Nebula is a Ravager in this, you know, multiverse, or not multiverse, but the multiverse version of her is Ravager, and she's content with that as well. It was just very different to see when it comes to a superhero movie, just because you do expect, not that I had any expectations for this movie, but you generally do expect someone to die. Hell, we lost Tony Stark at the end of Endgame. I mean, that just floored me.
Black Widow, like, we've lost characters. Yeah. So that's why I thought we were going to lose some of these characters, just for the simple fact that, like Drax, for example, Dave Bautista was very vocal for about a year and a half or more about how he did not want to play the character anymore. So yeah, I thought for sure they were going to find a way where he could make some sacrifice play and you know, die. But I mean, I don't hate it. I don't hate the fact that they kept everybody alive. I just, like I said, if you watched this last week when we were talking about Volume 2, our predictions, like, I was pretty heavy on someone's going to die, and no one really died. And that gets me to my biggest nitpick of the movie. The person who deserved to die, they didn't even kill. The High Evolutionary, which was a great villain, probably the cruelest villain we've had in the MCU. And Rocket had his chance to, first of all, the movie's all about Rocket. We're going to get into that in a second, but Rocket had his chance to kill this evil, you know, creator, godlike character, and he didn't do it. And it's like, Rocket and the Guardians kill people all the time. It's like, finish the job. Like, he stopped because he said that, you know, I'm not going to do it because I'm a Guardian of the Galaxy. It's like, but as a Guardian of the Galaxy, you kill everybody else. Like, why not kill the guy? Like,
continuity, y'all. This is what I'm talking about.
No, that's the thing, because now there's like talk online about, well, is the High Evolutionary, is he dead? And it's like, well, his ship planet exploded, but I mean, we've seen that before in other movies like Star Wars, you know, that we mentioned before, Brittany. There are people you think are dead or not dead for reasons. And I don't know. To me, it's a small nitpick, but I thought that he should have killed the High Evolutionary. Drew, what do you think about that?
And I would like get to the point of Brittany's question too. And I wonder what you guys think. Is everyone's seen all the Guardians? You know, when the first Guardians, when Peter reached out and grabbed the Power Stone, they're like, "How could he do that?" And then Guardians 2 brought in, you know, he's half, I believe, Celestial. Isn't that what Ego's character was? So I was like, are they going to play the whole half Celestial thing? Is Peter Quill going to survive this going out into space thing? I'm like, again, to the point
when his dad died, the planet died. He no longer was a Celestial, which genetically that's not how it should work, but sure, we'll go with that.
I forgot about that detail just because I forgot a lot about Volume 2 for all sorts of better things have come along since then. But that was the only thing I was wondering if they're going to play that angle, because it has been a long time since 2017, right? So I wonder how many people are going to remember that. And again, in the first Guardians, he grabs the Power Stone, and you know, that makes one of the famous scenes of, you know, I think a theme we're going to see in this movie, friends that become family, you know, they all help each other out. You're asking me about what I thought about what, Justin?
just the fact that Rocket did not kill the High Evolutionary, his decision not to do that when he has no problem killing other things all the time, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It was, I guess I respect it because the one thing I read about the offshoot of the Guardians is that, you know, they're kind of like the anti-superheroes. They, you know, they've killed people in their movies versus the others have refrained from that. So in some aspects, it was like you saw a lot of, I call it Captain Americanism, which is good for the Marvel universe. And I think it teaches, or not teaches, but, you know, shows a good example. One thing I want to mention too is I know maybe all of us watch Peacemaker, but I noticed like actors like the Nolan movies, especially Dark Knight movies or the Nolan brother movies, do you see that those casts follow them? It was interesting that Jennifer Holland, and I cannot pronounce the High Evolutionary's actor name. I apologize. You nailed it.
Yeah, Chukwudi Iwuji.
Yep, and you saw those two big characters from the Peacemaker coming. I'm wondering if there's anybody else that you recognize. Justin, I didn't, but yes, it just was cool to see them follow him back through, and the fact that they could, because I wasn't sure the contract situation was with the DCEU or whatever, but it was fun, and I think they added good value. I mean, obviously the High Evolutionary was needed to be the big bad in this movie. So my comments on Rocket, I think he just showed the good hero turn, you know, and the Captain Americanism, you know, not to go in the other universe, but, you know, Batman won't kill either. So.
Right. Unless it's
kind of a hero, I guess.
Batman versus Superman, then he kills everybody. Frank, what do you think? Did Rocket mess up by not finishing the job with the High Evolutionary?
Well, so what I took from that was, so the movie is pretty much about Rocket and his upbringing and like his origin story. When he came back from the brink of death, I think that gave him an added element of perspective. I don't know the Badger girl's name and the people that died on the ship in those backstories, but I think when he came back from that, game perspective to like be more than just a killing machine, because that connection, because you see that connection with I can't remember the Badger's name, but
Lila. It was Lila.
Lila. Yeah,
it was an otter.
She's an otter.
Otter.
Yeah. Oh, otter. I'm saying otter.
Well, I'm from Wisconsin, so I appreciate the props for the Badger.
Yeah. So throughout the movie, because like Rock is just brash, you know, tongue lash, just asshole, right? And one thing about like the flashbacks, it showed me a more innocent, soft, loving, affectionate Rocket, and more emotionally mature, even though he was young. And I think Lila was the only rodent person thing in the galaxy that Rocket showed that side to. You even saw it when he was dying, when he saw Lila, you know, for that last time. I think Lila got into him as far as like not wanting to take that final blow. Had he not come to the brink of death, I think Rocket would have done what Rocket normally does, which was kill him. But I think that played a part. Is what I think. So.
Agree 1,000%. Did you guys realize who Lila's voice was? It was Hawkeye's wife. I went back and looked. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, really? Linda Cardellini.
Yep.
Yeah, she voiced Lila.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and then of course you had Teefs, who was the walrus with like he had like wheels for legs, and you had Floor, which was the rabbit that had like a metal mouth covering and like spider legs. I mean, these were creatures that were, you know, experimented on heavily.
These are total James Gunn creatures. This was
right.
James Gunn all the way.
And now that part of it, Brittany, I want to ask you about, because like that was the big emotional kind of thrust of the movie, seeing Rocket's origin through all these flashbacks while like in real time he's, you know, almost dying. What did you think about her? It feels like that's where it kind of pulled on the heartstrings. What did you think about his friend group and just that whole part of the movie?
Man, why you gotta ask me this? You know, this pulled on my heartstrings, Justin. Like this is just cruel and unusual. This is much like what these friends of Rockets went through. It was very cruel and unusual punishment. It broke my heart. It absolutely broke my heart. But before I really get into it, I do want to give a shout out to Texas Potterhead, who's joined us here in the chat. She says she's actually glad that Rocket didn't kill the High Evolutionary. She loved the growth of his character. Also joining us is Nick and Claire, all the way from the UK, Walking with the Woods. Appreciate you being here. So like Frank's saying, for us to see baby Rocket starting off with the movie, right? We see the baby Rocket, you see the hand reaching out for him, like, and you just knew something was going to go wrong. Obviously, you knew this was Rocket, of course. And just seeing that, those flashbacks and the development of when he was little, and then being thrown in the cage, meeting his friends that were just given by their, I guess, project names, experiment names, right? He was 89P13. I can't remember the rest, but that's how they were referred to each other until they gave each other or themselves names, which, you name an animal, you name something, it becomes very personal, right? For any of us who have owned animals, just how important animals are in our lives. I think all of us here have had pets at some point, right?
Yep.
Seeing the dynamic between Rocket and these animals, even though caged, they still found some sort of happiness in one another. And then for him to try to make the great escape with the little card that he made to swipe, from the inside, and to be face to face with the High Evolutionary, and for him to kill Lila the way that he did, and then see the rest of his friends die, that scream that Rocket had was so visceral. I was in tears. At that moment, I kid you not, y'all, I was like, where's my dog? I need to go home. I need to hold my dog a little bit tighter because I will kill a mother effer if they ever try to harm my dog. Y'all heard it here.
Sorry.
Yes. Y'all know how much I love it. My dog just had surgery on Monday, okay? And I was a mess, okay? She had a tooth extracted. No big deal, right? But anyone cause any harm to my dog, I swear, I will do bad things and go to jail for it. It's fine. So that was hard to see. That was hard to watch. Just like Trisha says here, it was utterly heartbreaking seeing those flashback scenes. And then the scene with Rocket, we've obviously seen his character development from the time that he was experimented on. He made the great escape in a rocket, to seeing him with the Guardians. He has a whole new family now who he's gone on adventures with out in space in the open sky. But when he has that kind of, it very much reminded me, y'all, Harry Potter fans over here, it very much reminded me of Harry seeing Dumbledore at the King's Cross station near the very end, where Harry's basically deciding, okay, do I move forward with Dumbledore or do I go back? Right. This is very similar. And for Rocket to just break down to Lila and say, like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry for what I've done. I got you all killed. And then he asked, can I go with you? Like, he was ready. He was ready to be done. He was ready to be with his friends. And then Lila says, no, your purpose in life is not complete. You're not ready to come with us. And ugly cry face, like the ugly cry face ensued. I was just, oh my gosh, I'm not going to cry right now. But anyway, yeah, it was, oh my God, it told a great story for Rocket's character development arc. And I absolutely appreciate it, but damn, it was tough to watch.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, like, whenever the High Evolutionary, when he kills Lila, and is he the one who shoots Teefs and Flora? I know he so he shoots them. I knew someone shot them.
No. So High Evolutionary shot Lila, and then his people, his guards shot at the rest of them. Right. But nonetheless, it killed me to see Floor. I think that was the one that absolutely killed me the most.
And then after he kills them and Rocket's crying, then the High Evolutionary mocks him. And that's why, like, the Rocket loses it, rips his face up. That's why later on you see the High Evolutionary is like taking the skin from his face, and now it's like stretched. And which, I thought that was a cool look, but that's why I say, like, if anybody deserved to die, I understand heroes shouldn't kill and all that kind of stuff. I get that. Batman, Superman, all these characters, Captain America. But, like, in this case, this character deserved to die. And, like, the Guardians beat the hell out of him at the end anyway. He's basically dead. I assume he died anyway. There's like a 99.9% chance he did. But I'm just saying Rocket should have finished the job. It was such a Rocket story, all he went through. Because then at the end of the movie, like in the mid-credit scene, he's got his gun ready to go kill some more things, like some random things that haven't necessarily done anything to him much. Especially not as bad as what the High Evolutionary did. So I just think there's a time to kill in these movies, and like that was the time. And that's why when big nitpick with Rocket. I think he was awesome, like the whole way through. Great character, loved it.
And this was the movie that he didn't like randomly steal something or ask someone else to randomly steal like a leg or an eye or batteries or something like that. I mean, in fairness, Rocket was kind of in a comatose state of existence. So it's there was a lot of that.
To that point, real quick, Brittany, did you notice though in his intelligent brain how he's gathering stuff? So I don't know if that was stealing, but to make that card reader that whole time through the movie, he was gathering things throughout. So that was the classic Rocket. If I gather things, I can build things. You see progress.
That's true.
No, you're right. He didn't steal anything, but you see that mindset of his. So.
Well, I think he was stealing those things when he was little, obviously, when he was being experimented on to obviously make the Great Escape. So it goes to show, like, once he knew that they weren't going to make it into this big new world that the High Evolutionary was creating, supposedly for them, it's like, okay, we gotta move. Trisha says it was all about growth for his character. I wouldn't have been the same if he did kill the High Evolutionary. I kind of agree with that. I mean, I could go either way with him ending it, because this is the person who like abused him, tortured him for so many years of his life,
killed his friends,
like justifyingly so. I can see it and I can support that because I just said what I said about my dog. So, to each their own, but at the same time, for character development, he grew up in a bad situation, but he chose not to be the thing that the High Evolutionary made him to be.
Yeah,
I do love also how the movie displays how smart Rocket is, how brilliant he is. One of my beefs, because after watching Guardians 2, I went back and read some of the comics, and his intellect rivals Tony Stark's. People don't realize that, and I feel like the Avengers movies, like Infinity War, Endgame, didn't really show that. I know there was a line in Endgame when he says to Tony, "Hey, you're not the only. You might be a genius on Earth or something like that." But like, I feel like the series could have done a better job of showing how much of an intellect he is, and I think this movie really did, especially when it came to the evolution of the animals that the High Evolutionary was trying to create. I love that aspect of the movie of showing his smarts. So,
yeah, I mean, he was smarter than the High Evolutionary. He figured out something that the High Evolutionary couldn't figure out, which was how to make these anthropomorphic beings like not killers. He made them where they were, I guess controllable or friendly or whatever.
Docile.
Yeah, of course that still wasn't good enough for the High Evolutionary, who was just creating these counter Earths and these other planets full of these beings. And then once there was one problem with them, he was like, "Oh, we'll scrap the whole thing and start over again." So he's killed billions and billions of life forms. I just think he deserved a fitting death, and I think he got it. But I think he died, but I just would have preferred if Rocket really finished it. So,
but can we talk about, while we're talking about this storyline, can we talk about the fact that the mouse actually allowed this much of a disturbing storyline to be shown in a Marvel movie? I mean, this MCU, this Marvel movie pushed the envelope, and there was a lot of firsts in this movie, right? The first of one, seeing animals being, tortured, again, in a Marvel movie aspect, not just Disney in general. You got the first.
That's a Disney like
Disney
trademark
thing,
there. Old
Bambi,
Yeller,
y'all.
Bambi, yeah.
Bambi. Yeah. But we got the first F-bomb in this movie. And then we saw our very first, like, really gruesome looking torn off face, right?
Total James Gunn special effects.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, this is just really crazy that the mouse, being what it is, allowed this. I was like, oh my God, like, what is going on?
They're just greasing the entry in the Vaseline for Deadpool 3, man. That's what they're doing.
No, you know what? That is exactly right, because Deadpool 3 is going to have so much, like, yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother level. Yeah, you're right.
This is going to be child's play compared to Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
Because they already said, Bob Iger already said that it's going to keep his rated R rating. So get ready.
Quick question for you guys too. This in theory was James Gunn's farewell, and James Gunn has a cynical sense of humor. If you know his stuff and his style, I kind of thought it was interesting that the F-bomb was a deal. And I did watch a couple interviews with James Gunn, Chris Pratt after that, and they were surprised it didn't get eliminated by the Disney high ups. They said the screenings of it, and they just kind of shrugged their shoulders, like, open the fucking door. It wasn't like they continually said the F-bomb. So
right.
You know, and to the point of I think the good point about the Deadpool movie, they have to grease the skids and get the more mature audience ready. But you know, I saw a lot of James Gunn where I saw Peacemaker. I remember I think it was Brightburn, Kansas. There's a lot of gore and gruesome that the James Gunn and his brothers do when they make good superhero movies. And I saw a flavor of that, and I was kind of wondering, it was kind of like a, you know, thanks Disney, but you know, I'm going to give my little flavor to it. So
yeah.
And McDorks just said it, and again, Bob Iger, he's making all this possible. When he came back as CEO, he gave Kevin Feige the tools and like the latitude to do what he wants. And like, you gotta understand, not just Deadpool, but you got Punisher coming out pretty soon. You got Daredevil Born Again.
Yes!
So you have a lot of these very violent characters coming out. So you had to grease the skids a little bit and show like, hey, absolutely, Disney is going a different direction here with their new content coming out. So
well, for sure. Real quick, Justin, I just want to give a shout out to Mel, aka Geeking Out with Melly Mel. She's in the chat. She said that, oh my God, I know, dropping the F-bomb, the animal cruelty, Drax saying asshole. I mean, yeah, it was crazy. The other thing too, I want to point out, Trisha mentioned here, biggest downfall, and I agree with this, in the movie is that because of the animal cruelty, I don't know how many people will want to watch this movie repeatedly. Yeah. I am 100% with you, Trisha. While this movie for me actually kind of made me more of a Guardians fan, just because I think it told great story, it paced well. Sounds really morbid now thinking about it, hindsight. I don't know if I can sit through it again just solely because of the animal cruelty. It was a really, really tough watch.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think that will affect the box office. Like last week we talked about predictions for it, and I was kind of on the fence, but I was like, well, I think it'll make $1 billion. I don't think this movie makes $1 billion. I think it's gonna get 800 million, maybe 900 million, but I don't think it's going to get that $1 billion mark, because I don't think a lot of people are going to want to go see it again for the reasons you just stated. But you know, like, I think once you've gotten through it once and you see that none of the main characters die, I think maybe it makes it easier. And I mean, honestly, the way Teef and Teefs and Floor and Lila, the way they die, it's pretty brutal. I mean, it's, you know, definitely was a very emotional movie, but
can't do it. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna run back my prediction for
it has a chance for 800. I just looked it up as of yesterday. It topped 300 million globally
now.
Yeah, so it has a chance to get around 800. I don't think it'll make $1 billion either, but I think it has a chance to get to 800 million globally.
Yeah, because the key to these movies making $1 billion is like getting people like us to go see it 2 or 3 times, and
which apparently Frank is going to go rewatch. So maybe.
I mean, I kind of want to see it again. I thought it was really good. I might see it again in the theaters before it comes on Disney Plus in 5 months or whatever it is. But
so I want to share something real quick. Christian McDork said it is animal cruelty, but they have human cruelty, so it isn't a shocker. And Mel replies with, for some reason, the animal cruelty was tougher to watch. Maybe because I don't have kids and my dogs are my kids. For me, it was upsetting to watch. I agree. And I think like with people, like when you see bad people die, it doesn't really have the same kind of effect on you. I mean, when good people die, it's like, oh, that's fucked up, you know, that kind of thing. But when you see innocent animals, no, that's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, people have more agency. Yeah. You know, they have more choice in the usually, not all the time, but like, yeah. Go ahead, Drew.
No, I was gonna say I took my wife, and her biggest issue was, you know, she said it definitely. She doesn't know a lot about James Gunn. She said to me it was a bit much for her, you know, just the intensive cruelty. I said, well, it makes you hate the High Evolutionary. It makes you, you know, I said it was, and I saw it twice, 2 days back to back, and that was the toughest part to sit through. You know, I have kids and I have pets, so cruelty to anything innocent is not cool, right? So whether it be, but it makes, you know, James Gunn just makes you not like the bad guys to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the High Evolutionary, right? No, yeah, exactly. No, that's a very good point. No, but the High Evolutionary, to Chukwudi Iwuji's credit, I mean, he was great in Peacemaker.
Yes.
But like, he was one of the better Marvel villains of all time. Frank, what do you think about his role or his portrayal of the High Evolutionary?
He's the reason why I watched Peacemaker. I thought he was brilliant in Peacemaker. Like he's a guy I've always seen in movies and projects, but never really paid attention to. And now that he's kind of transitioned to the superhero genre, I now see his talent. Like he plays like an offshoot agent in Peacemaker, and evil, diabolical destroyer of like evolution and pets and just people in this movie. So like the range that he has is incredible. Like he's great. Like I couldn't just echo what you said, Justin. He's one of my favorite Marvel villains. Like he's up there for me. He's up there with Thanos. Like as far as like, you know, just the narcissism of this God complex that he has. He did a great job of conveying that through the movie. And like there was one thing about villains or characters that play not characters, but people who play villains. If you can make me believe that for a split second you might win in a movie, that's how I know you're good. Like when James Brolin played Thanos, I'm like, this motherfucker might win. This really may end with him killing half the Avengers or half the universe. Like for a split second, I was like, this motherfucker might kill Quill, Raccoon, and half the Guardians. Like he had me believing that. So no, man, shout out to him, man. He did a great job in this film.
Yeah, and I think that like this is by far like Thanos and Killmonger are awesome villains, but you can kind of see their side of things. Like there's some sympathy, especially with Killmonger. Like you can kind of go, like he's right about. I mean, honestly, Thanos is like, it's kind of like we have too many people, we have too many things, we got to get rid of them. Like it's kind of understandable. Like the High Evolutionary is just pure evil. He's just this being who is playing God for the whole universe. I mean, I don't think the whole multiverse, but the whole universe, and he's just pure evil, and you want to see him get his comeuppance. And
for sure,
that's just, I just wish that Rocket could have done that, because that would have been like the nice ending. And I liked when he told him, like, he's like, you know, the name's Rocket Raccoon. And let's talk about that also with Rocket, because Rocket found out that he actually is a raccoon after movies and years
badger,
and years. Yeah,
trash panda,
right?
A trash panda, vermin, a rabbit.
Yeah,
rabbit.
We finally come to terms.
He is a raccoon.
Still one of my favorite. Yeah.
The trash panda is probably my favorite.
I agree. The best.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Rabbit with Thor was hilarious, and the fact that as Guardians, you know, get after that rabbit in Endgame. But yeah, Trash Panda is by far one of the best nicknames.
Yeah, I thought it was fitting that he finally learned that he is a raccoon. He learned, like, you know, what raccoons are, and then he was like, "Yep, I'm Rocket the Raccoon." So
yeah. For sure.
Like, honestly, like, you could argue that the Guardians trilogy is more about Rocket than it is even Quill. I mean, this movie for sure, Rocket.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Chris Pratt is obviously the main star, and you know, he's going to continue, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But but no, Rocket like was so awesome in this trilogy. I mean, to me, he was consistently the best character of the Guardians, movie after movie. His appearance, you know, in Endgame, he was a great character. So.
Hey, Groot came in clutch too, y'all.
No, Groot was awesome too. Yeah, I mean, Groot's just has a limited vocabulary, you know. But we did actually hear what he said this time. You know, he said, "I love you guys."
Do you know why?
Please explain to us.
So this was not something that I came up with. This was a discussion I had with both Christian of McDorks as well as Angel, who was here in the chat earlier. He unfortunately wasn't able to stay. He says he's going to check out the recap later. However, it was pointed out that the reason that we got to hear Groot say at the very end, "I love you guys," is that at the very end, we as the audience, we hear obviously, you hear what he's saying, because now we can understand Groot. Right. We all speak Groot now because of how much love we have for the Guardians. And just like how Gamora couldn't understand Groot in this movie, she had to have someone kind of, you know, translate. It's when you know Groot, you get to know him, you get to like love him and that kind of thing. That's when you get to understand his phrases of "I am Groot." And so that is why we were able to hear him say, "I love you guys."
I gotta push on that real quick. That's real beautiful. I like that.
Don't you taint this? Don't you taint this?
I like that theory. The only reason I'm pushing on it, because in Infinity War, when Thor wakes up from being knocked out by Thanos, he's on the ship with the Guardians, and Groot speaks, and Thor, who's never met Groot, between him and Adam, he understands what Groot was saying, and then like.
Do you remember why?
Like, you speak Groot. He's like, "Oh, I took his elective on
Asgard." One of the
so
best
it makes me believe. Yeah, I think it's just a language that you can speak or learn. I don't know.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. When you take an elective in school and you learn that, you know, you can speak Groot, but you don't know what a damn raccoon is, you call it a rabbit. Fine, sure, we'll go with that. However, for someone who, because Quill in the very beginning, when he met Groot, he didn't understand anything that Groot said. He had to have Rocket translate for him. But the point is that, like Quill, Gamora, the first Gamora, Nebula, everyone who's been a part of the Guardians, you've gone on this journey with them. You've gotten to know Groot. You got to see him at his prime, baby Groot, teenage Groot, and now he's back in his prime, which I want to put a pin in that with Groot in this movie, another continuity issue I have. But because we've gone on this journey, we also understand him and can speak Groot now.
Yeah.
So it's no longer just hearing I am Groot. We actually understand him.
Yeah, because throughout the movies, you know, he said it different ways, and you know, like you said, Gamora didn't understand, and then later on she understands what he's saying. So it's just the time spent. That's why you know, as the audience member, you feel like you're part of the family, part of the Guardians family, so you understand that. So
look at Frank getting
my bad, my bad, man.
She's like, don't bring up old shit. How dare you? Christian, and he's right in saying this because I think I saw it on Twitter as well. It's not a theory. James Gunn confirmed that the language is it is a language, but love made it easier for him to understand. So
So explain the plot hole. So explain the plot hole of Thor knowing what he was saying. Then
he took a damn elective, okay, but he doesn't know the difference between a raccoon and a rabbit. So
it's an emotional language, and I can learn it if I wanted to in school.
If you wanted to,
if you're an Asgard. Which is you know, people not a place. Just remember that. So.
I think James got spaced out on acid doing between 2 Infinity War and 3, and just created a whole new origin story for the language. But
James had a lot of time in between because we weren't sure if he was going to direct this movie or not, so he could do whatever the hell he wanted at that time.
Quick question for the group. I know you want to put a pin on Groot, and I don't want to pull out that Groot pin, but how dare you? When Star-Lord jumps off and has got that one guy that they need the code thing from on his head.
Yep.
And Groot does the wing thing, which was absolutely awesome. I thought that was very cool. Didn't want to unpin, but doesn't Star-Lord have rockets in his boots, like jet rocket packs on his boots, and he can do the thing behind his ear? I'm kind of like, I get it to make Groot look good, but I just wonder what everyone thought was. It looked awesome. I'm like, wait a second, this is Star-Lord, man. So
that's a good thing. Good thing to bring up because as we in this movie, you don't see Star-Lord with his mask on. And apparently his mask was destroyed in Volume 2, but he had it. But then obviously in the Russo brothers movies with Infinity War and Endgame, he had the mask again. So James Gunn has been asked this question on social media, and he said that his explanation is that that Star-Lord left his boots or left his rocket boots and his mask and his desk or something back at nowhere. So not the greatest explanation.
Okay,
but
I buy it.
Yeah.
Just thought it was interesting because I thought it was a thing that was in him. You know, the implants did stuff too.
Because like fine. whenever it all happened at the beginning, he didn't have time to get everything together. So that's the way to explain that. But it would have been nice. That. It would have been nice to have that mask and those rocket boosters. That could have helped a lot.
I could accept that. Now here's the thing that I wanted to talk real quick about Groot. Continuity issue that I just have to point out. From the time that we saw Groot in Volume 1, you know, he made the ultimate sacrifice, saying we are Groot, right? Little twig gets planted, and then you start seeing baby Groot grow from the pot, right? And then in Volume 2, it's baby Groot all the way through, right? With Infinity War, it was kind of like teenage Groot, right? Because he's the one who basically gives Thor his handle, right? Chops off his arm. But now in this movie, when Groot is pretty grown, it seems, maybe not as grown as Volume 1, he gets obliterated to where his head is just the last thing that's, alive, if you will. He's got these little twig things that are growing from underneath him. So he's got like spider thing, but he's growing at a rapid rate. Like, why is he growing so fast in this movie compared to between Volume 1 and Volume 2?
Because they're a family now, so he grows faster with love.
Shut up, Frank. Listen, you got called out. You knowledge was dropped. Don't be mad about that. Don't be like that.
No, it doesn't make the language does not make sense at all. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. But
it's because of movies, right? Like it's like there's
Yeah, it
stuff
was so
like
quick.
because comics, because movies, like you just have to make it. You have to make it make sense.
It didn't. Like Christian, his head is the most important part. Okay, sure, we'll go with that. But yeah, that was just a continuity issue I have, because it's like, okay, head is the only thing remaining, and then like almost in the next scene, he's pretty much fully grown again. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Well,
How much time has passed?
At the end of the movie, he's massive, and he's what they
Yes!
call Alpha Groot. Like he's
a boulder.
bigger
That's
than
what he looks
Incredible
like.
Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like a damn boulder. So it's whatever. We'll go with it.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the new cast members. So we talked about the High Evolutionary. I want to get Frank and Drew's thoughts on Adam Warlock, because this is a character who is very big in the comics. People were looking forward to this character joining the Guardians, joining the MCU. This is one of the characters that people have been critical of, from what I've read. And I personally, I liked Will Poulter's portrayal. I liked the way they positioned the character. I thought he was funny, but I understand people who have more of a history with the character did not enjoy this.
Frank is
portrayal.
burning up. Look at him.
So Frank, let me go to Frank first, then we'll
Sure.
get Drew. But Frank, so what are your thoughts on Adam Warlock in this movie?
It was the one thing I fucking hated about the movie. It was the one thing I did not like about the movie. And I have a problem of like directors or writers who take things from the comic books and just kind of like dumb shit down. It's the same problem I have with Thor. Like this whole comedic act with Thor throughout the whole. Same thing with Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock in the fucking comic book stopped Thanos in the original Infinity War. Like he took the gauntlet. Like he's a powerful entity. Like he was made to be a savior. And like this lazy ass storyline of like him getting out of his cocoon too early, and like him being the fucking child and goofy, and like it was such a disrespect to the homage of the character in the movie. Because like the reason why I love Guardians 2 so much was towards the end of the post credit scene, you see him coming, like he's being developed by the people, like he's coming. Like so, like for 5 years, I'm like, oh shit, man, we might get Adam Warlock. He might be in Infinity War. He might be one of the guys that stops Thanos. When that didn't happen, I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. He might be one of the main characters against Kang in his next version. Cool, let's get it. And like they made him like a fucking idiot. Like I didn't like that at all. And to make him depower him like that, like he's this butterfly that was just born too soon. Like it was just like
he's a half-baked golden Superman kind of.
Yeah, it was so lazy, and I don't know, James Gunn just didn't do his homework, or he thought it would just be funny. It did not go over well for true comic book readers.
I mean, the thing about the Guardians and a lot of these MCU portrayals, they have obviously taken the characters and kind of molded them to the story they want to tell. That's the only thing I could say, right? Like it hasn't been, and I don't know much about Adam Warlock. I've read that people have described him as like space Jesus, and obviously in the comics he has an Infinity Stone in his head. Now in the movie he has some kind of a stone, but obviously it's not one of the Infinity Stones. He's
so powerful. He has two entities. He has Magus and he has Adam Warlock. Like Magus is even more powerful than Adam Warlock. That's personality disorder. So like he's one of those characters. If you're gonna put him on the big screen, you got to do it right, because he's a very complex character. Right. Him, another character by the name of Sentry. These are very complex characters who you have to treat well and display well, because now you're gonna piss off a lot of people. And I was pissed off by that. I didn't like that at all. It was very lazy writing on Gunn's part with his character.
Drew, what are your thoughts? I know you know the character from the comics, so what do you think?
I just wanted to pull a Poe Dameron. I wanted to be the spark that lit up Frank's lighter fluid on this one. I mean, Frank knows well better than I am, but the one downfall of the movies, I mean, I totally agree, and Frank knows the origins of Adam Warlock way more than I do, but even I've read the Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet, and I guess they had to do something, right, Frank? Because at the end of Guardians 2, he's in the cocoon, and it's like, okay, Adam Warlock. But I'm like, after seeing Infinity War, I'm like, I think they should have just best forgot about him or something, because, I mean, Will Poulter is a great actor, and if you know nothing about Adam Warlock, my wife, she thought it was humorous, so I could see it from that perspective. But when you have knowledge of the power of this character, like I said, for those of us that grew up with the comics, some of the stuff you just swallow the bitter pill and you move on, and just grateful for you get 85 to 90% of stuff. So I can't say any more of what Frank. I back Frank up 1,000% on that.
So I do want to come back to the chat real quick. Trisha, so disappointed in the storyline that of Adam Warlock in this movie. Christian agrees. He says it was a horrible introduction to this character. And that's the thing. Like, I am not a comic book reader. This has already been made known, right? It is known. And the way that Frank has talked about Adam Warlock is like a force to be reckoned with, right? You don't want to fuck with this guy. He's someone that basically, if he can take down Thanos, like, again, this is someone you don't want to mess with. So the idea for me was, oh, okay, this is going to be the big bad that the Guardians are going to face, right? That's to me how this was going to be set up. And then we get this high evolutionary, which I know nothing about. Once again, not a comic book reader. Don't even know if he's in the comic books. Doesn't really matter to me. It was just a weird kind of shift of focus of who we're going to make the big bad. But then we're also going to have like this introduction of Adam Warlock. And like Justin was saying, he kind of comes off at this really immature, goofy sort of person, which I think Will Poulter can do a great job as, because I've seen a movie with him, Jennifer Aniston, and Emma Roberts. Can't think of the is it
We're the
Sudeikis?
Millers.
We're the Millers. There you go. That's the movie. I thought he was great in that movie. He's funny. So it works for him, but to make Adam Warlock into like kind of like a comedic relief sort of character was probably not the best way to introduce him into the MCU. Because again, for someone like me and someone like Mel, for example, because she didn't know any of this about Adam Warlock, much like me, it doesn't land well unless you're really going to develop his character in movies to come, right? Because it does seem like he's joined the new version of the Guardians. Maybe he'll be a badass in that respect. I don't know, but I was kind of hoping to see him more as the villain as opposed to the High Evolutionary being the villain.
And like, if you want to save him and not put him in Infinity War because you want to make Thanos to look like this very unstoppable force, I get that, because he's the one guy that can rival Thanos as far as like heroes. So I get not using him in that retrospect. People don't know this. Drax the Destroyer in the comic books was made to kill Thanos. He was made to kill, like they depowered him too and made him more of like an idiot type of like imbecile type of character. So James Gunn, and so that's two characters James Gunn took and kind of like just cheapened and like dumbed down. So I don't know that that's just a James Gunn thing. Or I don't know if he's just doing it purposely just to piss off comic book readers. I don't know what it is, but like to do that with two characters in one movie is amazing to me. I don't understand.
Well, James Gunn's all like, they're gonna make me do a space opera. Well, fuck this shit.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go for
Frank, it. I didn't read any Guardians, and I think I talked about in some of our, when you've invited me so graciously in some other podcasts. I never read Guardians until after seeing Volume 1, and then went back and started reading some of the Guardians. I don't remember coming across the High Evolutionary myself. Frank, did you ever? I don't, I know they battle Thanos, they battle Adam Warlock, and he was their allies back and forth. Magnus, like you said, his alter ego, but I just don't remember the High Evolutionary at all.
I've only read 4 volumes, so okay. if he's in the comic books, I never got to him.
So you've read, I haven't even read that many, so gotcha.
Yeah. I read it simply because I wanted to know more about Drax and more about Raccoon.
Yeah.
And Drax is.
Yeah, he is totally.
Yeah, Drax is powerful, man.
I forgot about when you said that. He did deflate him, but not knowing anything about the Guardians, I saw the movie. Go ahead, Justin. Sorry.
No. I mean, he also changed Drax. I mean, Drax is green in the comics, so he changed the color of Drax because he didn't want him to look like Hulk.
Gamora's purple too. Right.
Yeah. So we talked about this last week, where I was saying like how the creator of Mantis, the comic creator, Steve Englehart was his name, or is his name. He wasn't a fan of what James Gunn did to Mantis, because Mantis in the comics is not he made it more of a comedic character. And I think that like all these characters, Drax, Mantis, Adam Warlock, they all work well in James Gunn's story, but for the people who know these characters, they don't serve the character well. Like the character works in the movie because he makes them work, right?
Right.
But they're not, great portrayals of what people who have read the comics and know these characters. So that's kind of a bummer, but that's also kind of what James Gunn did. That's why James Gunn, now he's going to be doing Superman next. Like that's his next movie. So that's going to be we'll see what happens, right? But that's why he likes to get these lesser known characters like the Guardians, like some of the Suicide Squad characters he made in the DC movie, because with those characters, you can mold them and do whatever you want with them, basically. Like, I mean, think about it. Peacemaker. I'd never heard of Peacemaker until last year or 2 years ago when that first movie came out. And now Peacemaker is probably one of DC's better characters in the movies, right?
He's got to be careful though, Justice.
Yeah, no, I
understand. He's probably the most popular character outside of Spider-Man in the comic book world. If you fuck off Superman, bro, that could be career suicide. Seriously.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be able to do stuff with Superman that he's done with these other lower characters. Just like, I mean, Zack Snyder had some crazy ideas for Superman and Batman that didn't make it to the silver screen because they were too wacky. And he's mentioned some new stuff recently that was like super wacky about how like Wonder Woman's dad was going to be Kryptonian. Zeus was going to be Kryptonian. And so Wonder Woman and Superman were going to have a relationship that way or something. It's like, no thanks. Anyway, back to the MCU stuff. But I think the characters, you know, some of them are not obviously well served, but there is a character that I want to talk to, and I want to go to Brittany first in this one because I think this character was one of my favorites, and that's Cosmo the Space Dog, voiced by Maria Bakalova. If you saw her in the second, what's that movie called?
Borat.
Yeah, she's so great in that movie. Brittany, what'd you think about Cosmo in this movie? Was Cosmo a good dog or a bad dog?
Oh, listen, why you guys set me up like that? Cosmo is the goodest dog, not the bestest, because my dog is the bestest, but she's a good dog. No, so you know, this is one of those things where if you didn't see the holiday special, then you kind of would just be very confused about like, why is this dog in this movie? And kind of
I was so confused because I didn't see the holiday special.
Oh, the holiday special is great. You should definitely check it out.
Oh, the holiday special. Listen, spoilers, but that one still ranks very high for me when it comes to the Guardians movies. 45 minutes long, you can't beat that. Also, Kevin Bacon. Long story short, Cosmo made her appearance in the holiday special. She is a talking dog through the help of like whatever technology, presumably Russian technology or intergalactic technology. She has a Russian accent. I think it's a nod to the actual real life dog that went up in space, right?
Yeah, never came back.
And never came back. So
they left the dog in space. Yeah, they left the dog in space.
So there's it. Okay.
So
based on a true story in the 60s.
There's the animal cruelty that
Pavlov's dog. Now this shit. What the fuck is going on with these people, bro?
Oh man.
The Soviet Union was not friendly to many people
kind.
Or things, but especially dogs apparently.
So Mel didn't know about the holiday movie either. It's on Disney Plus, y'all go check it out. It's 45 minutes long.
It's great.
It's very entertaining. Great music.
And
also put
a
pin in that too.
You talk about continuity, Brittany.
I
love how they incorporated that. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yes. So yes, she's a talking dog. She's telekinetic. She can, you know, with her mind move objects, what have you. It becomes very important in this movie. She squishes an enemy, if you will. But yeah, she has like this beef with I say Sean Gunn, Kraglin, who's, you know, the new Yondu with the whistle. He's trying to figure out how to, you know, navigate that arrow. And at some point he refers to her as a bad dog. And she's like, take it back. You know, I can't do the Russian accent, so I'm not going to do it. But she's like, take it back, y'all. Like, you know, the whole movie, no matter what scene they're in together, take it back. And he will not take it back. He does, spoiler alert, take it back when push comes to shove. And like I said, she squishes the enemy and he says, you know, she's a good dog, and she jumps up on him and licks his face. I knew that's what you thought of me. And it's just so sweet. Like, yeah, great character of the dog. Protect her at all costs. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Drew, any thoughts on Cosmo?
Oh, you fell in love. I fell in love with Cosmo from the holiday special, and I really like Kraglin, and he's such a misfit. And when he finally gets things right, you just are happy for him because that guy, he's cracking up through all the movies. He's been a great comic relief. Didn't realize he was James Gunn's brother until I did research several years back in Volume 2. But boy, he's fun. But I did enjoy Cosmo. He's
also the stand-in Rocket.
The young Rocket voice. That was crazy.
Well, just to like actually stand in, like when they're doing.
Yeah, when they're on set, he physically plays
Rocket. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
He's like on his hands and knees doing that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Mel says that the scene made her so happy with
Yeah.
Cosmo. Cosmo is a good doggy. Yes.
Yeah. And Cosmo was briefly seen in the first Guardians movie. The first,
Very
actually, the
brief.
first two. Yeah.
Very-
Mhm.
Real
Trailers?
quick shots. Yeah. Well, one of, I think in Guardians 2, it was a post-credit scene
Mhm.
with the Collector, right?
Mhm.
Yep. And then in Guardians 1, can't remember. We watched it a few weeks ago, but I can't remember exactly. But Cosmo is seen. It's a
Yeah.
different dog, and
Mhm.
I think in the comics the dog was male. Obviously, they changed it to female for this movie and for the holiday special. But
Mhm.
very cool
Did-
addition to the cast, and obviously one of the new Guardians going forward.
Yes. Did y'all catch that Howard the fucking duck was also in this movie?
Once again, he's in every one of the movies very briefly, but yeah.
Jesus. One of the worst Marvel movies ever in existence. Howard the Duck.
I had no idea that was even a Marvel movie until Guardians. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a Marvel property, just like Alf is a Marvel property, which
I
I, did
know.
not know.
So
but
weird.
if you see this movie, there's a lot of Alf. There's stickers and Alf posters, or Alf paraphernalia throughout the movie, and so
Yeah. So unlike Howard the Duck, Mel, I know you did notice Howard. Christian, I do what I want. I will not leave him alone. Unlike Howard the Duck, I do encourage everyone to go and watch the holiday special. It's short, tells a great story, great music, and I hope that's something we do talk about shortly.
yeah. Real quick, I just wanted to talk about a couple little people who were like in the cast that James Gunn always hires. Of course, Jennifer Holland, as Drew mentioned, his wife. She was in the movie. The person, the character's name, whose name is Ura, the one that they kind of take hostage and they're having a back and forth with. She was the rat catcher number 2 in the Suicide Squad movie.
Oh,
So
okay.
I knew her face was familiar.
She wasn't a Peacemaker character though.
No, she wasn't.
Right.
A
Yeah. I went. Yeah. Okay. I was wondering.
Daniela Melchior. So
Can
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, are we talk about another cameo on that same planet?
Oh, yes. The security guy.
The security guy, Nathan
Yeah,
Fillion.
Nathan Fillion.
Yes,
Yeah.
Nathan
Okay.
Fillion.
I just
Okay.
wasn't sure who you're talking about. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Wow. The fact that they brought Nathan Fillion into the fold just floored me.
Yeah.
What did y'all think of seeing him? Like, were you just as shocked as I was?
I was shocked and pleased. I thought his sense of humor and his comedy role he'd fit in perfectly. I wasn't disappointed at all where they went with him and what he did.
Who the fuck is Nathan Fillion?
Oh, you know who he is. You've seen him before. He was on that show Castle. It's like a TV show. He's been in Suicide Squad.
Well,
He's
the
like,
cop dude?
Firefly.
yeah.
Oh, I never knew his name. I have seen commercials of Castle. I just never knew who he was.
He's also in one of my favorite movies of all time. Justin should know this. Blast from the Past, opposite of Brendan Fraser.
Really? He's in that movie?
Yes,
Yeah, he plays
She's
the
right.
ex-boyfriend to Alicia Silverstone.
That's right.
Yeah.
The
And
one with underwear.
Christian mentions in the comments Firefly. That was like
Yep.
it
That
was
was the
kind of
biggest
like a
plot
Star
one.
Warsy kind of show that came out in
Mhm.
the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah,
It was
that had a
on
huge
Fox.
following.
It got canceled after how many
Couple of
seasons?
seasons or
Yep.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's a James Gunn like go-to guy. Like he's in, like I said, he's in the Suicide Squad. I can't remember if he popped up in Peacemaker or not, but I mean, guaranteed he will be in the DCU in some probably a small role, but who knows? He might be in a bunch of other stuff. But speaking of the Peacemaker movie, Pete Davidson is in this movie briefly. He voices one of the villains. Judy Greer, who is voices one of the characters. She of course is Maggie Lane in the Ant-Man movies. Tara Strong, who's the voice of Miss Minutes. She's the mainframe voice. So we got a lot of famous people sprinkled in there. These are all James Gunn favorites. Obviously, Michael Rooker returns as Yondu in a quick little kind of dream scenario.
That warmed
Mary
my
Poppins,
heart.
y'all.
He's like, I don't use my head, I use my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice seeing him again. And then of course Sylvester Stallone makes another cameo in this movie because he's like the lead Ravager that Gamora, I guess, like works for. So yeah, a bunch of cameos with some pretty well-known names.
that's a good transition to talk about Gamora. I wanted to ask, what did y'all think about her in this movie? Obviously, it's the Gamora that from Endgame, who is actually the one who is from 2014 or who traveled in time or whatever.
She's from the original Guardians,
right?
There prior to the original Guardians, actually, you're right. Prior.
There you go.
That's right.
So I want to get y'all's thoughts. I personally, I like the fact that her and Peter didn't end up together. To me, it just wouldn't have made sense. Frank, what do you think about Gamora, the way we left her, and what about her, like the fact that her and Quill did not like reconnect?
Well, like Yandu, man, in my head, it made sense that they went together. But in my heart, I wanted them together. I somehow, somewhere, I wanted them to fall in love again. Because like in Infinity War and Guardians 2, their connection is unique because it shows how far they come from Guardians 1, and like the comedic romantic connection they had. And I feel like their relationship brought the Guardians closer together. So from that standpoint, I selfishly wanted them together. But for the movie purposes, it made sense. It made sense for them to go separate ways. Now it confused me that she was a Ravager. Like that confused me a little bit because you see like in Endgame, once Gamora finds out that Nebula turns to be a good guy, whatever, you kind of see the connection they have, and I thought that might carry over into Guardians 3 of like their sisterhood, like maturing. But like you saw in the opening scene when they walk past each other, like they're like grunting each other, like it's like their relationship kind of like went backwards again. So I get it. Like it makes sense that they're not together, and because Gamora doesn't know this guy, Gamora hasn't met Peter Quill. She hasn't had that time spent with Peter Quill. I get it, but selfishly, I wish they would have made sense. James Gunn had no problem making dumbing down characters, powerful characters. Why can't you just go ahead and just have these people together? Fucking guy, man. I'm standing that guy.
I think the reason is because Zoe Saldana.
You better not say continuity, bro.
No.
Okay.
No. I think the reason why he didn't reconnect.
God damn.
I know. I feel like he's going to come after me.
I know.
I'm not even that invested in these two characters, but I feel like the reason why he didn't reconnect Gamora and Quill is because Zoe Saldana does not want to be in these movies going forward. So I guess it was just best to kind of, she's with the Ravagers now and she's on her own adventures and, whatever. And also like James Gunn kind of expressed some, like, he talked about how he didn't really love the fact that the Russo brothers killed her in Infinity War. And I would say to him, it worked better for the story for Thanos to kill his daughter. Like it honestly just worked better than some other character. So there's give and take with that stuff. Like when you're playing in this big interconnected sandbox, it's not always going to work out. So
it made sense her dying because it strengthened Nebula to become more of a good guy. So her dying kind of propels Nebula to be part of the Guardians. So
right.
Look, I would never question the Russos, bro. Like they got what $1 billion movies under their belt. I'll never question them.
Yeah, they did pretty well.
I was gonna say, tell us how you really feel, Frank. My God. I think between you and Christian, y'all are very, very passionate about your stances on certain things. Christian just says Gamora should have just stayed dead. Period. My God.
Well, one version did. Like they didn't bring her back.
But it's funny because at one point, Quill even mentions how it kind of doesn't make sense that Gamora was able to come back, but yet Scarlet. Why do I always want to say her by her name? Black Widow wasn't able to come back, at all, right? He's like, yeah, but it is what it is. It's just kind of saying the things that we as the fans have been saying for a while, like, well, why bring back one and when you could bring back both? But sure, we'll go with that, right? It's kind of like the Star Wars situation with Palpatine. Not going to go on a tangent about that on this pod. So with her being part of the Ravengers, I thought it was very interesting in general, because now you're really seeing this more aggressive, now that Thanos is out of the picture, right? She always had some beef with Thanos. Well, she's just making her own way through the galaxy now. And the fact that she has no desire to be part of the Guardians, let alone have what seemed to be a relationship with her sister Nebula. It's just, I don't know. What we're discovering with these different multiverse people is that they're not necessarily all the same character across the multiverse. We saw that with Doctor Strange, right? I mean, there's so many different versions of Doctor Strange, but I mean, his ego is pretty much the same, but he's still not the same person, if that makes sense. So I think it's kind of fitting to really define that there are two distinct different Gamoras, at least that we've seen in this multiverse saga.
How did she escape? How did she get away? So if in Endgame, the Avengers defeat Thanos and his army, how did she escape Earth?
Remember at the end scene, she kind of just walks off into the sunset, for lack of a better term. She kind of looks back. If you look at the bonus scene too, when they're all kneeling when Tony Stark is in honor of him, she kind of just turns and just walks off. Frank, really, it's kind of, yeah, it just is what it is.
She had a ship or something. She just
walked off. And then I guess we fill in the blanks, right?
Oh.
No, I hear you. So,
okay, Christian. All right.
Yeah, I agree.
So Drew, what are your takes on Gamora in this, or what's your take on her in this movie?
I was glad that they kept. I know Frank doesn't want to use the C word, so I'm glad they kept with the storyline that she was from the original. She was with when Thanos had Nebula, and they're hunting down the Guardians. So pre-Volume 1 going into Volume 1 of the Guardians. So there was a part of you that I guess there was a part of me, like Frank said, you hope that the romantic comedy returns, but knowing what we knew, and again, didn't know, I expected her to bite it too, along with Drax and some of the others. One thing I would just take everybody to say, did you see, I don't know if it was just good, her just being a decent actress or some of the emotion of the movie. It was a very powerful movie about family and love and sacrifice. You see her almost break down in a couple of scenes, like when they save Rocket and stuff like that. I don't know if she's just that. She's a good actress. I mean, seen her in other movies, but you see her get emotional in the type of, the happy joy thing. Like she wants, and maybe it's part of the role, she wants to be part of that, but she just doesn't understand because it's not, she hasn't been with them like the other Gamora that we know. So I thought she did a good job with that. And I don't know how much we're going to go into some of the spoilers, but as Frank knows, with this thing going on now with Star-Lord, there's talk about his relationship with Kitty Pryde, which Frank and I both know from the comic books, which ties into the Secret Wars. So this is going to get really interesting. So yeah, we can get into that, Brittany, in a little while. But
can't fucking wait.
Yeah, we will.
So that's the story. That's where it's going. Yeah, that's where they said it's going. So
yeah, I did like how one of her last lines, maybe her last line in the movie, is she says to Peter, she's like, "I bet we were fun." And he's like, "Hell yeah, we were." So I thought that was kind of a good send off because again, this is not the Gamora that the Guardians and that Peter knew and loved. It's a different version of the character. So I thought they handled it pretty well. She could have been sacrificed though. She could have sacrificed herself. Like that would have been fine with me too. Like that's a good way to to get rid of these characters.
But one thing I do want to just interject and say, Justin, is the fact that there are a lot of characters here in the Guardians, right? We have a lot of different characters, but I felt like each character got a good amount of personal story, if you will, or personal story development. And obviously this movie focused heavily on Rocket. We've talked about that already. We know the outcome of Star-Lord, Gamora. I really liked how Nebula, Drax, and Mantis each really got more screen time. Especially with Mantis. Like with Mantis, she, was standing her ground and like telling everyone off and maybe not everyone, mostly Nebula, but just telling people what it was and what she thought of Drax. She's like, it's not his fault that he's stupid. You think I'm stupid? Yes, basically. I mean, I appreciated that more with this movie because I felt like in the past movies, we don't get too much focus on these characters. Whereas this one, I guess, because it is potentially the send off of these original Guardians, that they've got more screen time.
Yeah. And I think Mantis and Nebula were kind of the backbone of the team. I mean, along with Rocket, like in the beginning, but after Rocket gets taken out, like they're the ones who were kind of in charge. Obviously Quill has got all kinds of problems and, mainly his being like heart sick over Gamora, the Gamora he lost in Infinity War.
And then to bring Nebula into that kind of situation where Gamora suggests, "Oh, it sounds like you should be more in love with Nebula than with me," and then he starts looking at her like in a different way, and she's like, ew, just stop that. Like, no.
I mean, that was a Steelers scene from the trailers, but that was hilarious in the movie. That it sounds like the one sounds more like her. She's like, don't bring me into this.
I mean, in real life, she's fucking hot. So I don't blame I don't blame Peter Quill. Like, take off the makeup, man. She's legit.
Well, the eyes, the artificial eyes, Thanos placed them. He chose a really nice set.
Just they in a form of torture. They just really picked the right set. So that was the classic Guardians banter. That was awesome.
Yeah. But what I really loved with Nebula was the fact that she, for someone who was so hardened for so long because she was the least favorite daughter of Thanos, she was always in competition with her sister. She struggled to basically be a better person than what she grew up to be. The fact that she showed a lot of care and emotion with Rocket, like when they got word that Rocket was going to be okay, I mean, she like almost broke down, right? And she's like oh my god, like, she was relieved that he was going to be okay, where you always see her either just kind of downing him or whatnot. You show that she actually has feelings, like she really does care about these people, her family. And I really loved to see, I really did enjoy seeing that development.
And I quickly agree with you too, because I remember Tony Stark calling her the Blue Meanie in the beginning of Endgame. And, this is fun, just, she was so straight-faced, straight-laced, 1 or 0, buying her on or off, to see the emotional side of her in a good way. I agree 1,000%. That was fun.
It's one of the greatest character arcs in Marvel history. Because, like, you go from trying to kill your sister,
right,
to, like, now caring, to not only care about your sister, but, like, caring about every member of this Guardians team and willing to die for them. It's a great character arc for her, man. She does a great job. That's the one thing I do agree with the character arcs of these castmates on this team, that they all had great character arcs, from Raccoon to Nebula, Gamora, sort of, Quill. So yeah.
Yeah, and then for her to take it upon herself to stay on Nowhere and, build a better life for the people that they just saved, right? The animals, the kids, the people that were already on Nowhere. She's saying, like, I got to lead these people, basically. And Drax, which, by the way, Drax, I think, I know he's John's favorite character just because he comes up with, like, the funniest lines to come up with, which I know it's very different from the character in the comics. Mm-hmm. However, to see Drax be like that father figure, because that was something we've always heard since Volume 1, talking about how Ronan murdered his family and talked about his daughter, and then he is able to communicate with these kids that were being experimented on by the High Evolutionary, because all you hear them say was chip chip. Fuck does that mean? And he's able to communicate with them, and he does an impression of a monkey. And what was that?
It was kind of like the rat when you call a raccoon a rabbit. That was definitely a robot,
right?
But, so the humor of it, I know,
but he's behaving in such a way that's very father-like, and it's just. But the whole jip jip thing was just fucking hilarious to me. That was good
me by surprise. You wanted to transition with something too, and want to say something. You talked about the music. Rainbow, Since You've Been Gone, I know that was going to show up in all these movies one of these days. I love that. You talked about Peter Quill being a mess. Not only was he heartbroken about Gamora, but now he was dealing with the fact, as much as they give each other crap, Rocket and Quill, I mean, he was heartfelt that he about losing his best friend, and you really saw that side of him. So he had a lot going on emotion-wise. So that was, and at the end there, when you see him, you talk about Rocket's visceral scream when the High Evolution kills his friends. I mean, you just see the hopelessness scream from Star-Lord when they think they can lose Rocket. There was a lot of powerful emotion for a group of, pretty funny, space. I don't know if it's just space pirates, space whatever, space guys. So
yeah,
it was impressive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there are definitely some powerful scenes, and especially seeing basically Thanos Jr. over here just completely obliterate a planet and genocide of the people that he created. It's just like, my God. God.
I did see twice. If I recall, when they first showed that Nowhere scene where they're, Quill's drinking a little too much stuff, weren't they playing? They were playing "Creep," right?
Creep by Radiohead.
Now, I was hoping that the group from Texas was going to reprise their role, and I was looking for them to play that song. But I'm like, oh man, because they stole the Christmas special, as we all know. So
the lead singer of the old 97s, he was in the movie. He was in that scene with Cosmo and them where they're playing cards or whatever.
Right. But I was hoping the band would be back together because the music, like you said, was fantastic.
That would have been great. Yeah, the music was great in this movie, as was kind of the
much better than Volume 2.
The
much
staple.
Better.
I mean, this is what James Gunn does with all these movies. Again, I'll be interested to see what happens with Superman, because I don't think that's a movie where you're going to have a lot of popular songs in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. I think you're going to have instrumental music that's kind of epic in its own way. Let's talk about the action in this movie. What did y'all think about? I mean, probably we'll highlight the hallway scene the most, but what did you think about the action overall, Frank, in this movie?
I thought it was dope. The slow motion, the hallway scene, even shit, Raccoon trying to escape, like him fighting all those, foot soldiers, man, like that was dope as well. Like the fighting in all these movies are all great. Like I have no problem with the fighting. And it's so good that I forget that it's a 2 hour and damn near 30-minute movie. Like, I was entertained the whole time. It flowed, the fighting scenes, everything flowed great. And when you can distract me for almost 3 hours, that's how I know you did a good job. And with the fighting choreography and all that, it was A1. I liked it.
Awesome. Drew, what'd you think about the action?
I echo everybody's sentiment. I mean, it flowed. It was the scene to do the slow-mo at the end there with the hallway fight scene was a good send-off to see the group fight well together, and I enjoyed it. So I did enjoy the first scene too. It was pretty intense. All of a sudden, Warlock comes out of nowhere, and nowhere, no pun intended, and they're like, "What are we dealing with here?" And you see Starler grab his blasters and all that kind of stuff happened too. So it reminded me of how Endgame opened up, where everybody's getting together, trying to figure out getting the spaceship, jump, and try to find Thanos. There's just a lot of urgency to it. So
I really enjoyed the scene where leading up to Quill meeting the High Evolutionary. It's not a trap, it's a face-off.
Right.
Kept saying that over and over. But that scene alone with Groot, you see Groot packing heat, damn. That was badass. That was super cool. Seeing just how many guns he had, hidden underneath his roots or whatever you want to call them, and then he multiplies his arms and hands Quills his blasters. That was super cool. That was something I was not expecting to see. It almost kind of gave me Tony Stark vibes. I mean, I know we never saw multiple arms off, Iron Man or anything like that, but the scene between him and Rhodey in Iron Man 2,
right,
when they're facing off with the other robots, that's just kind of the vibe that I got. It was really cool to see Groot have more of a purpose, because that's what Quill did right before they left, getting in the car. Also great to see a 40-something-year-old man who didn't know how to drive. Made me feel better about myself, because I didn't get my license until I was like 30. But that was fun. That was the fun scene as well. But just that scene where they're bringing down the High Evolutionaries office area was pretty cool.
And Brittany, a second ago you mentioned the face-off, how Quill kept saying face-off, face-off. And of course, later on we saw that the High Evolutionary had his face ripped off. So that was that probably is part of that. Maybe it's a nod to the classic movie Face Off with Nicolas Cage and
that's the first rated R movie I ever saw. Fun fact.
Go for it, Frank.
Was it just me or did he look like Red Skull a little bit when his face was ripped off?
He did. He did remind me of Red Skull, but not nearly as gruesome.
Yeah,
he was blood Red Skull, dripping blood Red Skull. Yeah,
man. Mel says, in a way, Groot reminds me of Chewbacca. Cute, but can be dangerous.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a really good call.
That's a really great comparison.
Yeah, I like that.
For sure.
Let's talk about kind of what's next with the characters. But I want to touch on how, at the end when we thought, like I said, I mentioned the pump fake at the end where we thought Quill was going to die. He's in space. He's freezing. His face is blowing up, and then Adam Warlock makes the save, which worked out great for the movie. But when I was watching this, what I was thinking? I was like, who should save him or who could save him? Thor. Wouldn't that have been a great way, to bring Thor back in? Like the last movie they were in together, he helped them or whatever. Then they left, and that would have been a cool way to bring Thor back into the group. I don't know.
I don't think Thor's coming back for the Guardians. I don't even know if Thor's coming back at all. Truth be told,
no, he's gonna come back. He'll come back, but But I don't know. That was just a fun idea I had when I was watching. I was like, that would have been kind of cool if he would have made the save. Of course, then he would have been like, why wouldn't he be there the whole time? He could have stopped all this by himself, all that kind of stuff. But
supporting Frank's want for Gamora and Quill to get back together, I was kind of hoping that she would be the one to go after him and reach out for him, and that would be the basis of them maybe rekindling. Look at Frank, he's over here oh my god. Yeah, no, that honest to God, honest to God, that's what I was hoping would happen. And then I saw Adam Warlock, and so I was slightly disappointed, but the only real person who could have survived that was him. So yeah, just saying.
Yeah,
Frank, I didn't mean to make you cry. I'm sorry.
I was happy to see we did get a photo of Thor with Groot and Rocket from Infinity War in the credits. So
yeah, right.
that was cool. So
that's a classic scene in that ship.
Yeah,
very
that
cool.
was really
in
cool.
the cup part out into space.
Oh my god.
No, I mean, Thor with the Guardians was so great. It was such a great combination. I wish we could have got more of that.
Christian makes a great point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, that was
so New Rock Stars brought that up. Yeah, so I saw
he
that
says, "Did you notice a reference when Adam reached out? It was the painting, the creation of Adam, which I've seen, in person." Yeah. In the Sistine Chapel, which is amazing. I may or may not have a picture of it when you're not supposed to take a picture of it. That is, and the fact that his name is Adam. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Very cool. So let's talk about what's next with these characters. So who's in, who's out, and what's coming up next. So we know who's out. Obviously, James Gunn. He's the co-CEO of DC. This was his final movie with Marvel. He's gone. Dave Bautista has been very vocal about how he's gone. Recently, Zoe Saldana has been pretty vocal about how she doesn't want to play Gamora anymore. She would love for them to just recast the character and keep going if they want to go. So those were the ones that for sure seems to be gone. Now, I didn't know this before I saw the movie, but in last month, Chris Pratt, in an article, he was quoted as saying he was very much down to continue playing Star-Lord. So that like I said, I didn't see that before I saw the movie. So that's why I was kind of surprised that he was continuing. But as we all know, in the post-credit scene, we get he reconnects with his grandfather, which, they talked about how he hadn't been back to Earth in all this time, but he was back on Earth in Endgame. So there is that, because the final battle was on Earth in Endgame. So
yeah, but he hasn't been back on Earth to see his family. And that was the point that Manus was trying to stress.
He hasn't been to Missouri. I guess Missouri.
That's on Earth. No, I was kidding.
Right.
One of my best favorite lines from
from Tony. Yeah.
Yep. It's on Earth. Dumb shit.
That's funny.
Who's your master? What am I supposed to say? Jesus?
Right.
That's another good one.
I'm from Missouri.
Yeah, see, those movies are so great.
Yeah.
When you mix those characters after everything, it's so awesome. Anyway, so he reconnects with his grandfather, and we get the title credit at the end that says the legendary Star-Lord will return. Now, I want to kick it around the room. What do y'all think that means as far as Star-Lord? Okay, I'm going to go to Brittany first. What do you think? Okay, what will we see Chris Pratt play Star-Lord in next? What's his next step with this character, do you think?
Mowing the yard.
Mowing the yard. Okay, that's not. I was going to give you the option of solo film, Avengers team up, or a Disney Plus series.
In all seriousness, I can kind of see them maybe doing a Disney Plus series. However, I don't know if Chris Pratt would actually do a series as opposed to having a solo movie. But
he would. He did a show for Amazon last year. He's
that's fair.
He's open for business. Yeah.
Okay, he's open for business. All right. What a whore.
As we all are. We all are. I would love to be.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. If the checks are right, they'll come coming.
Right. That's fair. No, I think it's definitely going to be more of a solo project as opposed to being part of the Avengers, because otherwise, Avengers or Guardians, otherwise they wouldn't have phrased it the way that they did, the legendary Star-Lord. So to me, that comes off more as a solo project, be it a movie or a television series.
Okay, Frank.
But definitely mowing the yard is going to be part of that.
Frank, what are your thoughts about Star-Lord? What's next for him?
I think a team up movie, but not Avengers.
Not Avengers. Okay.
I think X-Men.
Okay, that's a transition perfectly to what Drew wanted to talk about. Drew, tell us about Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde and what can we expect with that.
The little bit I know, I did so. This was even after my time. They made a second series of Secret Wars, and Frank, feel free to step in and help correct any comic misstatements I make. It's not intentional. Just there's a lot of pop culture up there that's floating around, kind of collide at times. But anyways, I went up and looked up the legendary Star-Lord, and now I own the hard copy of the 12 comics it makes. I'm going to read that. So I was reading about it, and that's what made me buy it after seeing the movie twice. I bought it on Sunday. It's a 12-part series focused on Star-Lord's time after he departs to the Guardians and leaves Rocket to run the group. It has so his grandfather's name is Jason, right? He says, Jason Quill. So obviously Volume 2 did some things of changing the story a bit, but his father's name in the galaxy is actually named Jason. So they're trying to make some parallelism, but it talks a lot about his solo adventures, which I'm looking forward to read about. But then there's a tie I was reading, and I read it in two. I know just because you read it in two spots here doesn't make it true, but there's thoughts of that they're going to tie his story into the Secret Wars, which we know is coming up. And the Secret Wars is where they take all the Marvel people and put them on, I think it's Battle something, Frank. I can't remember the name of the battle.
That's the Beyonder, right?
So they made a second Secret Wars.
20 Battle
years later.
World.
Battle World, yeah.
Battle
So same
World,
kind of concept, Battle World. So there was a in the animated series of that Disney supported of Marvel. They went to Battle World. Beyonder was involved too, but somehow Peter Quill gets involved with that. Gets involved with the X-Men. And the Avengers, primarily the X-Men, and he and Kitty Pryde fall in love, and they're going to take that story. Now, in the past 5 years, I picked up a 4-part series, a 3-part series, Secret Wars, Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde, and it's about their love affair. It's kind of interesting. So we'll see if they go that route. The two sources I've seen are groups of Marvel fans that have been pretty spot on with stuff. So I could see it going that way. It would make sense. And, I know we're not supposed to use the C word today, but, to keep the storylines going, and Kevin Feige has done a pretty good job. I could see it going that way. Now, Frank, I have a quick question. You did like Peacemaker and did like that, right? What you have a beef with is what James Gunn has done to these Marvel characters from the comics, right?
Yeah, I didn't finish Peacemaker. Good. Yeah, I didn't finish Peacemaker, but I did like what I saw. Peacemaker.
Okay.
What was the question?
Yeah, the question, because you said I could see you got upset a couple times when we talked about what happened to Drax, what happened to Adam Warlock, and you're really getting on James Gunn. So, but then you did say I did like Peacemaker. So
I did.
Yeah. So to my point, you give and take, and like I just said, if you can get 80 to 90%, you're doing good. But I hope I answered your question, Justin. I would love to see it go the Secret Wars route, see how he interbrings the X-Men. Now I hear that Deadpool is going to be the entrance of the X-Men, though. So that the X-Men will probably already be there, and then this will lay the path for the Secret Wars story. So, and then if they go that route, and then this Kitty Pryde love relationship, it'd be interesting to see. So,
I wanted to ask you about that. If you could just explain to us who don't know, I mean, I've obviously heard of Kitty Pryde, but who is Kitty Pryde? Just like a quick synopsis of who the character is.
She's one of the more powerful members of the X-Men. Frank, help me out. I think she telekinesis, kind of like.
Wait. We've seen her though.
Right.
In the Fox.
In the Fox adaptation, right?
Correct.
She's played
Ellen Page. Yep.
Well, now it's Elliot Page, I think.
Yep.
Right. Same character. I know exactly who you're talking about now. Okay.
Yeah. So she can go through walls and all. Very powerful. One of the more powerful, if not, I don't know. There's a couple of them that could be tied for the most powerful X-Men.
Yeah, she can phase into things. She can. Right. She's very powerful. Yeah, but there's been different. Like she's had some different love interests, because like I know she was with Peter Parker for a little bit as well in comic books, and
wasn't she with Colossus too? I thought
Colossus as well. Too, so. So she's a hot commodity.
Yeah. Yep. Well put.
I mean, she is. I mean, they love her.
It's fine. That's fine. That's interesting choice of words. Okay.
I meant that as a compliment. Like she's a very beautiful mutant. So
right on.
So I hope that answers your question, Justin, and for the people watching the podcast. Yeah, Kitty Pryde will be interesting if they go that route. But yeah, there's a lot of enthusiasm and people pulling for the whole angle that the Legendary Star-Lord leads to the Secret Wars, that leads to the relationship story between Kitty Pryde and Star-Lord. So
yeah, I mean, I think everyone's excited about the X-Men being brought in. I just doesn't seem like they've got that all figured out yet. So I don't know when that'll be. It might be a while. That's why I think that this Star-Lord will be a Disney Plus series. I think it might be more on the comedic side. I think you could see Chris Pratt returning to his roots from Parks and Rec and having it more like a funny, like back on Earth kind of comedy deal. But then I do think we will see him in, one of the upcoming Avengers movies, just because the sheer star power that he brings. Because Frank, you and I, we've talked about this, a lot recently about how, they don't have Tony Stark anymore, or they don't have Robert Downey Jr. They don't have Chris Evans. They're losing these legendary actors who were the first, the founders of the Avengers. And so they've got to kind of retool with big name actors. And obviously Chris Pratt would be one of the biggest stars in those movies, along with Chris Hemsworth. And,
I do think Tony will be back though. And for either the Squirrels or Secret Wars, I can see him come back just for that, but not the Tony that we know and love.
Right.
A different,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
As long as it's not Tom Cruise, I'm fine. Just saying.
Damn, Tom taking strays on this podcast. God damn.
Just saying. I don't like that guy. And when it was rumored that he was going to be like
that was a long time ago.
I know, but still, didn't like it. Don't like it then. Didn't like it then. Don't like it now.
He was attached to play Iron Man like in 2005.
I know.
It was. Yeah, I know.
My point still stands.
Yeah, no, I got you. I think it could have been a cool thing for Multiverse of Madness, but
How dare you?
But I'm fine that it didn't happen. Okay, so we talked about Star-Lord. Let's talk about the new Guardians, because as we saw at the end, the original Guardians kind of disband with Quill goes back to Earth. Mantis is going on her journey of self-discovery. Gamora's with the Ravengers. Nebula and Drax are going to stay on Nowhere and raise the rescued kids. But then we have the new team, which we meet in the mid-credit scene. We have Rocket, who's the new captain. We have a fully grown Groot. We have Cosmo the space dog. We have Kraglin. We have Adam Warlock. We have Phyla, one of the children that they rescued, and the lovable Blurp, who was the Ravenger pet that Adam Warlock kind of mistakenly killed the owner of while they were interrogating him. Brittany, I'll start with you. What do you think of the new Guardians going forward?
Man, we're keeping with continuity of misfits, y'all. I mean, that isn't the defining factor of, yes, I said continuity. If that isn't the defining factor of Guardians, I don't know what else may be. Now, that creature is the same creature we saw in Shang-Chi, no?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Was it Shang-Chi? Yeah, it was Shang-Chi, because when we saw Trevor Slattery again, played by the wonderful Ben Kingsley, he had a creature that was this lovable, furry thing. I can't remember his name. It started with an M. Help me out in the chat, y'all, if you're still with us. It doesn't matter. I think it's the same creature. Anyway, it was funny to see the group of them together on this planet that they're just waiting for the enemy to show up, right? And they're talking about music. What is Guardians without music, right? Because Rocket's been passed on the Zune that belonged to Quill, right? And so they're asking, what are your favorite artists, your favorite songs or whatever? And Phyla says, well, I like Britney Spears and Korn. I'm like, I've never felt more seen, because I love me some Christina Aguilera, but then I also like Metallica, Disturbed, that kind of thing. Talk about opposite ends, right, of the spectrum. And I was just like, yes, girl, I feel so seen at this moment. So that was cool to see a new bonding moment amongst these new Guardians, and they're here to kick ass and take names. Kind of fun.
Yeah. Frank, what are your thoughts? New Guardians.
Sorry, Mel just said the chicken pig. Morris.
Yeah.
Morris.
But I don't think Morris is like Blurp, because I looked up Morris and it doesn't look the same.
Okay, well, I saw furry creature and I thought it was the exact same thing, but chicken pig. That's brilliant. I'm going to stick with that. Yeah.
You're not talking about Lambshank, which we saw in this movie, which was voiced by James Gunn, the one that Mantis freed. And she's it's like a half pig looking thing. Obviously
I thought that was Pete Davidson.
No, that was actually James Gunn's voice. Yeah. And Mantis is she's like, oh, I'm not, there's something scary behind you. Yeah. There's something scary behind you. You look really cool. Yeah. Anyway, Frank, new Guardians. What do you think?
I I mean, like the old Guardians, I knew nothing about them going into it. I mean, I'm a fan. I mean, the Jip Jip girl and all Cosmo the dog. Like, I mean, they're mosh posh are different like types of heroes. So if they do another Guardians movie with this with that new group, I'll be fine with it. As long as they don't lose the comedy. The comedy is what makes it pop for me.
Yep. Drew, what are you thinking about the new Guardians?
I like what I saw. I mean, I had some flashbacks to Age of Ultron when, Black Widow's talking about the new team and he's saying, well, they're not the 41 Yankees, but it was neat to see them together. I like seeing Rock in his captain role. Interesting to see. You talked about File. I did a little more research on Sunday reading up about her character, and she has quite a role as in the Guardians storyline. So it's neat that they're giving some props back to where the roots come from the comic books. So I like them. I will be interesting to see what they can come up with. I mean, after the big bad here, it's going to be hard for them to top that one. So
okay. So just a couple quick things before we get out of here. Let's just go around the room. Rank the Guardians movies. I'll start off. I think my favorite was I like Guardians 1, then 3, then 2. Brittany, what about you?
Are we not including the holiday special?
I'm gonna just go by the movies, just the movies.
Boo.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
You can movies, then add the holiday special.
Oh, well, the holiday special is still going to be number one for me just because of time and I, told a great story. So, but in all seriousness for the movies, I'm going to go with this one first. I'm going to go with 3, 1, 2. Can't stand 2.
Frank, what do you think? What's your rankings for these movies?
Same as yours. 1, 3, 2.
Okay. Drew, what you got?
I'm absolutely agreeing with you, Justin, and Frank. And that I really think they played a huge role in Infinity War. Their comedy and their involvement in the multiple areas really. So I still consider that a sub-Guardian movie, but it's not. And then the Christmas special is somewhere between. I mean, it has to be between 1 and 3 because it makes them flow. So that's my only interjection.
Yeah, that's a good thought. So my final thing is this movie was marketed as the best movie since Avengers Endgame. And I'm going to ask y'all the question, was this the best Marvel movie since Avengers Endgame? I think, Frank, you kind of already answered it, but I'll go to you, Frank, first. What do you think? Was it the best movie since Endgame?
No, Spider-Man, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah, Spider-Man. It's not even close.
Yeah.
And I love Guardians. It's not even close.
Right.
It's not even the same galaxy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Brittany, what do you think?
Great marketing because they got people into the theaters and obviously they want the money. All right. They got the money. No, I don't agree. It's not the best movie since Endgame. I will wholeheartedly agree. It's Spider-Man that followed Endgame. And that's because that's also coming from someone who's not a huge Spider-Man fan. So for me to say that, it's hopefully it carries some weight. Not that it does, but yeah, no, it might come runner up to Spider-Man, but definitely not the best.
No, that's Eternals. What are you talking about? Eternals comes up after Spider-Man. What?
Really?
No.
That's a hot
Are you
take.
shitting me? Oh my
He's
god!
messing with you. He's totally messing with you.
Oh.
I'm Justin.
I'm like,
Oh my
Frank,
gosh.
I like when we have different thoughts. It's good.
Frank, I was about to say you need to stop taking whatever medication you're taking because you ain't.
No.
You just I saw
No.
you from the beginning on that one. That was hilarious.
No,
I watched
for
that
me-
high and sober 2 weeks in a row, and I enjoyed it less high. So that tells you how bad the movie was.
Yeah, no. So no, I think it comes. This movie comes maybe second after Spider-Man. So yeah, Drew.
And I saw you had made that comment today in Twitter and on YouTube. So I was, how much I love Wakanda Forever and Spider-Man No Way Home. Those two, then Endgame. So and then Infinity War. We did the rankings back in December. That was a bold statement to say that. I mean, especially with Wakanda Forever and No Way Home following Endgame. Those are two of my absolute favorite movies that stole it all for me. As much as an Iron Man fan, everything else I am. You know how much I love those two movies.
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with y'all that I think Spider-Man is No Way Home is a much better movie than Guardians Volume 3. But I do kind of have a hot take here because I think I do like Guardians Volume 3 quite a bit. I think it's a good movie, really solid. But like a year ago at this time, almost exactly a year ago, Multiverse of Madness came out. And I liked that movie quite a bit. And then after that, there was Love and Thunder. And I liked that movie quite a bit. And then there was Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And I thought that movie was fine. It was a good movie. I think people are acting like this latest Guardians movie is like so much better than what we've seen recently. I just don't agree with that. I think it's I think it's a little bit better, not better than No Way Home, but I mean, I think it's all kind of in there. Like it's all kind of similar. It's all, just your preference of a character or whatever. I don't think that even like Quantumania, I don't think Quantumania was that bad. I really don't. I mean, this movie looks so much better than Quantumania. Quantumania, the look of it just didn't look great, but this movie's, I don't know. I thought that this movie's better than those movies, but I don't think Marvel is in some funk or something. I think they're doing okay.
They're far.
If you can pull $600-700 million post COVID, and if for it to be a subpar movie, then you're doing just fine.
Yeah. That's the thing. We have so much goodness. It's like having a Mustang and a Camaro. You're just gonna have fun in either sports car. You know how much those sports cars, guys. So you're just not gonna go wrong with any of these.
Yeah, I think it's just we had the high of phase 3 where they were just rolling off these $1 billion movies, and they were all really, really good movies, except for maybe Captain Marvel, but it still made $1 billion. So we got in this phase where that was the goal, and I think that things have changed with COVID and everything. So, the bar has been lowered, but I still think these movies are pretty good. There's some that are excellent. But most of them, the bar is pretty good, pretty watchable, fine experience, go see it. Brittany, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, I know I saw a headline about people suggesting fatigue from Marvel back-to-back productions, and I get it. There's been a lot of content coming from Marvel. We here on the Watchers have also had a little bit of okay, I need to take a step back and maybe watch something else for a bit, and that's fine, But the thing is, I don't think this is the end for Marvel. We've talked about this before. Maybe not all of us here agree, but this is definitely a rebuilding sort of phase. And we have to establish new characters. Obviously, with Guardians parting ways, we're getting a new set of Guardians that we have to establish their characters. Adam Warlock, people, Phyla and what have you. So, this is, it's not over. It's not over. There is a plan, people. You just have to, and Kevin Feige, we trust. Okay.
Absolutely.
We just have to be patient. It's going to happen. It's going to work out. Y'all just don't be shitting on Marvel and say, oh, Marvel's at the end. What are you going to do after Marvel actually ends? You guys just chill out.
Go back and watch Iron Man from 2008 and work my way back. That's what I'm going to do.
Exactly.
Now they're going
to remember the good old days.
They're going to be engrossed in the DCU.
Oh God.
No. No, but I think if there is any kind of fatigue, I think that the TV shows have contributed more to that than the movies have. And the one thing that we've learned recently is the TV shows are going to back off of that. And they're Secret Invasion comes out in June, I think June 21st. And I think they're going to do one more. I think Loki season 2 might drop later this year, but that's
October, they said.
October, okay.
October, yeah.
So who knows? I mean, they might have to delay that for other reasons with Jonathan Majors.
I'm ready for Tom Hiddleston.
I think the TV shows, they'll cut those back and it'll make the movies feel special like they always felt back in the first 3 phases. So anyway, let's wrap it up here. Any final thoughts from everybody? Go to Drew first. What final thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It again surprised some characters weren't killed off, but again, I think it was Mr. Gunn having some fun with us and tearing our heartstrings and knowing his departure from Marvel. So he did what he did. I enjoyed the movie. I saw it twice. Again, some things were tough to sit through, but I had fun. Love the banter. They did keep to the stuff that made the Guardians the Guardians. So, and thanks again, guys, for having me on here. the fan base is great. I'm almost feeling not worthy because some of like Christian really knows his stuff. So thank you for having me. I've been glad to be there from the beginning, but it's been a treat and a true honor. So I enjoyed the movie and always enjoy being here, guys and gals.
Yeah, no, you're definitely worthy. We're happy to have you on the show for these MCU reviews. Thanks for joining us. Frank, final thoughts.
Great movie. I'm gonna see it again this weekend. It was a good end to a cast of characters, and they do decide to pick it up again. Let's get it. Love the comedy, love the action. More Guardians, please.
There we go. More Guardians, please. Brittany, final thoughts.
As a non-Guardians fan, this movie did actually make me a bit of a believer in this band of misfits, if you will. And I actually, albeit tough storyline to, endure, I think it still told a great story. Like Frank mentioned earlier, it paced well. It didn't feel like a 2.5 hour movie, and it held my attention, pulled my heartstrings, of course, but I liked the idea that they left it open on the maybe possibility of these characters reuniting in some future project. We'll see, even if it means recasting some characters. But hey, I like that kind of open-endedness. And for once, I like seeing a happy ending for a group of Marvel characters that so many just adore. So it's kind of refreshing. Not everything has to end in death and violence, if you will. But yeah, again, as someone who's been open about not caring for the Guardians, this movie definitely made me care.
Yeah. And I agree with everything y'all said. It was a I really enjoyed this movie. Really interested to see what James Gunn has next. Also interested to see what happens with the Guardians next. I don't know. There's a really good movie, good experience. I recommend, if you haven't seen it, go see it. But if you haven't seen it, you shouldn't be watching this because we're spoiling the hell out of the movie. So that would not be a good move. But
before we go,
sure.
I just want to get everybody's favorite one-liner from all the combine, not just from this movie, but from all the Guardian films. What was your favorite one-liner?
Favorite one-liner? That's a good question. If you have one, go for it.
Well, first of all, Frank, it's been 5 years since we met this summer, and you brought me into this group, so it's been a great friendship with everybody. Thank you. My favorite one-liner from the first one. Look at us. We're all losers. We've all lost something. Love that line. One of my favorites.
That's a great one. Yeah, that's a great one. Brittany, do you have one?
Yeah, the foul-mouthed person that everyone has come to know and love. It's going to be from this movie. Okay, well, what do I do now? Open the fucking door.
So.
Mel agrees with me. Her favorite line too. Open the fucking door. Exactly. Yes.
Frank,
yes.
Do you have one?
I do, and it's from my least favorite Guardians movies, Guardians 2. But when Yondu, right before Yondu died and he saved Quill, he's like, I think Quill's like, you like Mary Poppins with the umbrella. He's like, was he tough? Yeah. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. I love that fucking line because he said it with such utmost confidence. I had no idea it's a British woman with an accent.
Yeah, he's like, was he cool? And he's like, yeah, he was really cool. Yeah. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Yeah, that's a great one. I think my favorite line is not necessarily a funny line, but it's from the first one. I think it's apropos because this movie is about Rocket. And in the first one, he said, there's no thing like me except me. And that's a perfect line for the character. I mean, that was in the first movie, and then we see how it plays out, and that's true. He's, he's a one-of-one life form. So very cool.
He won line.
Yeah, that's right. So now you know what we think about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We want to know what you think about it. And Brittany, how can people tell us?
Well, we always encourage those to watch our live streams and join us in the live chat, just like today. Shout out to everyone who joined us today. Mel from Geeking Out with Melly Mel, Trisha, the Texas Potterhead, Christian of McDorks, Angel Prado, who was here earlier as well. And if I've forgotten anyone, I do apologize. We've had a great conversation. Obviously, it's always fun to engage with our subscribers. So if you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It helps us out so much. And also hit that notification bell. That way, the next time we are going to have a live stream. We have lined up for next week, Succession. For those of you who've been following Succession, we're coming back on Monday.
4, episode 8. Yep.
And then next Wednesday, for my fellow Potterheads, we are going to be covering the 4th movie from the Harry Potter franchise, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. We will be joined by Amber of All of Amber's Wands, so don't forget to check us out next Wednesday for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Also, a quick shout out to Walking with the Woods, Nick and Claire. They joined us briefly as well over in the UK. It's very late over there, so much love to y'all. And also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Watchers Basement. Don't forget to also use the same hashtag, Watchers Basement, to help grow our audience. Let us know the things that you want us to cover, be it TV shows, movies. Just talk to us. We like to hear your thoughts on the things that we like to talk about. And also, if you're not into our video podcast, that is perfectly cool, because we got you covered. We are also available for our audio podcasts on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Don't forget to follow us there, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brittany. So for Drew, for Frank, and for Brittany, this is Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Remember to open the fucking door.